Awesome. Oh, let's see how you do. Spur the moment. It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
No pressure.
I won't tell you about my first football experience, but oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Ready? Oh. Soft one, and then double tap. So many different techniques on the gong. All right, you guys, I wanted Nicole to be our guest gonger because I wanted to start today with a big thank you to the agents in this room and in this office particularly, who are engaging in different conversations about what they're hearing, about things that are happening in the market and about their experiences. Obviously, today we're going to take the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper. Thank you, Charlie, for coming and doing that for us. And from what I can tell, the people who are engaging in all of the different conversations and saying, but what about, what if, what does this look like for me right now, are the ones whose kind of energy around this is getting really calm and really looking at opportunities and everything that's happening here. So I really appreciate that. Nicole was the very first one to send me something about all of the things that were going on. So thank you for that. And thank you for guest gonging us in today. Yes, and we're gonna start, before we do dive in, we're gonna start like we always do with our mission, vision, values. In a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay. So today, our mission, vision, values, we're going to dive into a little bit of celebration. I promised you guys we would get to our cappers in production a little bit earlier than we did for our January. So here we go. We have cappers in the house. AJ George. Congratulations. Dylan Morrissey, lots of team cappers. Tanner Smith. And Sheila and Mark as well. All of our cappers, keep coming, you guys. Lots of team cappers in this and also some team movement. I want to acknowledge Sue Arnold is now part of the Schmidt group. We're going to roll into February recognition, production, top listings taken. You guys, listings. Katie Nankovic, congratulations. Top lister in February. Sharing that honor with Dana Lassett, 2 each. Baumgartner Group at 2 and Level Up at 3. So congratulations there. Woo, home run. 1 listing, 1 contract, 1 closing, all in 1 month. Some new players on the board. So some standards that we've come to expect. Alex, I expect you on here all the time. Dawn, Zach Shipley, all the time. Tony Teresa, of course. Joan Jeff, of course. Jeremy and Scott, congratulations, you guys. Emily, new name. Ethan, congratulations, love that. Michael, Matt, Max, Pat, good work. Love seeing this. Top close volume in February. Emily Walzak at 1.3. And I will say, I sat down with her early in about mid-quarter, and she thought, I don't know where this is all going to come from. I'm sitting at about 800,000 for the quarter. And we sat down and mapped it out, and she got to work. So if you don't know where your next million's going to come from, let's sit down and figure it out, because it's in your pipeline somewhere. Terry Lewis, congratulations. 837.5. Pat Cotter, there you are again. Nicole Asaki, Katie Nankovic, Zach, Carly, Nate, Tina, and Laura Glossmeyer. Congratulations, you guys. Teams, Baumgartner Group at the top, 1 million plus. CGR at 969. And Ben Murphy at 780. Congratulations. And here we are at this, our groups, Team Smith, 2 million. There you go. Lifetime 1.9, Mind Drive 1.6, Team Angles 1.3, Level Up 1 plus, and Krickeberg 1 plus. So congratulations, great work. Volume year to date 1.9, Emily Walzak. Terry Lewis 1.9, Katie Nankovic 1.4, Catherine Gorel 1.4. Wow, Katie, you're $100 over Catherine. Steph Sosa, Dana Lassich, Nicole Lasaki, Pat Cotter, Carly, and Zach. Great work, you guys. Teams. Ben Murphy sitting on top at 2.6. Baumgartner Group 1, CGR Callis, and the Pinnacle Group 500,000 there, and then our groups, Mind Right, 4.1, sitting on top, love that, congratulations. Lifetime 4, Scott, come on. Reliance, Team Angles, the Kierkegaard Group, Team Smith, Wisconsin, and Level Up. Really nice work, you guys.
Yeah.
Great job.
Great job. Top closed units. You control your units, right? Terry Lewis, 5.7. Katie Ninkovic, 5.38. Emily, 5. You can see the rest. Dana, Catherine, Steph Sosa, Nicole, and Pat Cotter. Congratulations. Year-to-date team, Baumgartner Group at 5, Ben Murphy at 3, Pinnacle Group at 2. And our groups, Mind Right, 13.92. It's curious. Team Angles, 12. Lifetime Realty is at 11. Reliance is at 7. All In is at 7. And Level Up is at 7. Great work. Congratulations. Really love that. A couple quick office updates. And this just has to do with spring break and kind of where we are in the season. No team meeting here next week, but we do have something that we will be showing here. So if you are not on spring break, plan to come here anyway. And then the Tuesday after that, for a second, we are also not having a team meeting the weekend after Easter, and people traditionally are not here. So use your time.
We're not traditional.
We are not traditional, so come and have a great mastermind. It's going to be fabulous. We'll see you on the 2nd with Unplanned. Charlie, would you like to take over?
You ready?
Ready.
Couple other things. One other thing, all offices are closed on Friday, the 29th. You guys have access to the offices via your fobs 24/7, but just wanted to make sure that you guys plan accordingly, that the offices and leadership will be closed on March 29th. Cool? All right, so question of the day. But first, I want to share with you a matter of perspective, okay? We're at, I would say, an inflection point with where we are as an industry and where it is that we're going. And I don't think that's a bad thing, okay? I think perspective is incredibly important because there are two things that I know that will absolutely continue to happen. There will be real estate agents that will take advantage of the opportunity in the market of the moment, that will take an unfair share of their market share, and they will learn how to navigate how the industry evolves. 2, people will continue to transact real estate, okay? And how we do that and what that looks like is critically important in this moment in time, and accepting where it is that we are and where it is that we're going. Today, we'll talk about 2 things that will impact that. 1, Jared from MLS is going to join us to talk about aligned showings. 2, I'm going to give you an update as it relates to what exactly is the settlement. What does it mean? What is my interpretation of it? I'll share with you some personal opinions. I'll give you anecdotal things as it relates to how we plan to help you navigate it moving forward. And then if you stick around, you can ask me other questions. Cool?
Yeah.
Sweet. So I want to share with you a matter of perspective. Everything in life, you have to think of things like this. There's an x-axis that considers time. There's a y-axis that considers intensity. At any given moment in time, you have things that happen to you personally and professionally that where an event happens. On the professional side, it could be what it is that we're going through right now. On the personal side, it could be death, it could be divorce, it could be some life event that happens to you. And in a moment of time, the intensity of that moment is the greatest. Okay? And as you go through that moment of time and the event that happens and how you navigate it, something happens to you. You have fear, you have anxiety, you have uncertainty, you're nervous. And most often, most people become emotional. And I want you to hear from me today that that's okay. Like in a moment in time, it's okay to feel those things. How we help you navigate those feelings is ultimately how quickly we help you mitigate the intensity of the moment. Does that make sense? So then ultimately what ends up happening on the same time continuum is time goes on, a new event shows up, the event that you just dealt with becomes less intense in time because you grew and evolved as a person. The experience you went through, the next time you have a similar experience the intensity of that experience becomes less because you've dealt with it before. And you can think of a variety of these examples, both personally and professionally, where that shows up within your lives. And so then you go on in life and the time continuum of your life goes on and more moments show up and you learn how to navigate the intensity of those moments. And if you think back 6 months prior or 6 months, 6 years prior or 60 years prior, those moments of time in terms of how you reacted become smaller and smaller in terms of the intensity they have within your life because you grew, you evolved as a person, and you understood what it is of where you were and where it is that you needed to grow, so that more often than not, as those moments or events continue to happen to you, the ones that had already occurred become less important. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's where we're at in time, okay? And so what happens is the time continuing goes on, and this is a very this is my best way to draw something in terms of getting it out of my head and onto a paper, is you continue to have these events in your life, and as you go on in time, you learn from them, you grow from them, and you realize that it didn't materially upend what it is that you do or how you interact, because you continue to grow and evolve. Make sense?
Okay.
We're facing with 2 of those moments now. If you were to ask me 2 weeks ago, I would imagine that the intensity of change around showing time and aligned showings would have been the greatest thing in your professional life going on right now, outside of finding more listings or finding more buyers. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And if you think about the events that happened on Friday, the intensity of which the change of aligned showings versus what happened on Friday, you'd look at it and be like, ah, shit, it's not that big of a deal. All right, let's figure out this.
Sure.
You know?
Easy, man.
Yeah. So my point to you is it's all a moment of time. We'll figure out how to help you navigate it and take where it is that we are with some of the changes that are coming within our industry as just that, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to evolve, and we'll help you get to where you need to go. Cool? Cool. So I'm gonna invite Jared on from Metro MLS to help us understand where Aligned Showings is today to help you prepare for showing time sunset effective April 5th. With that, Jared, I'm flipping it over to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I guess good afternoon by now. Thanks for taking a few minutes with me this morning. Like Charlie said, I just want to kind of give you an update as to features that either have been currently released in Aligned Showings or those that are currently in the works, just so you can kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. We did do a session this morning with the Whitefish Bay office, got a lot of really good feedback, was able to give that directly to our developer already. So we definitely want to hear your feedback on things. So I'm going to go ahead and just give me a few seconds here to share my screen. All right. So Charlie will also kind of help me monitor questions. So if you do have a question and you're in person, feel free, to let Charlie know so that the question can be asked. Otherwise, feel free to use the chat box as well. So a couple of things that are currently live in the system is we now actually have the ability to limit the number of overlapping showings in Aligned Showings. Where before it was either, all or nothing. So you do have the opportunity to select either no overlapping showings, or you can actually allow up to 8 different appointments, 10 different appointments to take place at one time if you so choose to do so. That's found in your listing setup right under the maximum overlap limit. So that's up to you and your sellers as to how many people you want in the house at that point in time. So that is currently a live feature. We also have added the ability to add the buyer's name to the actual showing request itself, which is something that we are hearing a lot in this area. Aligned Showings currently is in, I believe, 6 different marketplaces throughout the country. And Wisconsin seems to kind of have its own unique set of challenges and what they want to see out of the product. And the one thing we kept hearing was we need to be able to put the buyer's name in. We need to be able to put the buyer's name in. So that feature is there, it is live. You select that add buyer button, add in their contact information, and then you're good to go. The nice thing about that is after a listing expires, if it does expire out, within 5 days after the expiration date, As the listing agent, you can actually go ahead and run a protected buyer's report that will basically have every one of those registered buyers come up on your report for you, so that you don't have to try to contact individual agents. You can literally just download this document and then give it to your sellers. At no point in time will the listing agent be able to see the buyer's information until a property actually would expire. So that's something that's currently on our test platform. One complaint we heard a lot was the ability to use that broadcast message multiple times. When the product was first launched, it was basically a one or done. You used it and you did not have another opportunity to come back and do it again. That has in the process of changing. So you will be able to use the broadcast as many times as you want. As an agent working with that buyer at some point in the near future, you will be able to disable receiving those broadcast options if you so choose. And the other nice thing is they have made a change, and we had a really great conversation this morning with your other office about this, is it does actually allow you to not only send those messages to agents who have accepted showings, as well as those who have pending showings, but it's also going to currently take you back 14 days prior to that broadcast message going out. One of the discussions we did have this morning with your other office was that they would like to see the ability to go back to the creation of the actual listing itself in the system and not just the past 14 days. So it is something that I wrote down this morning and I did take back to our development team. We do have a new option for feedbacks. Basically housed under one place, directly under your listing setup. You can select the view feedbacks and go through every feedback request that was sent out and the surveys responded to. And kind of the nice companion piece to that is under your feedback survey options here, I do have the option at the very top where I can choose to send this on to my sellers or my tenants. And it does kind of color code it here for us. So I do have my questions here on the right-hand side of my screen. You can see the top one's in green. That's basically indicating positive feedback. Anything that's in red could possibly indicate a negative feedback. And then the size of that survey that you can create is going from 8 questions up to 10. This is something I actually learned this morning from the session. So your sellers basically end up getting a web page that has all of their showings and feedback and stuff on it. So you do have the option. I've got 2 highlighted spots on that screen there for you. If I were to go ahead and select only approved feedback, that's basically me as the listing agent saying, okay, I want them to be able to receive this feedback. However, if I do check on the all feedback option, as soon as that survey comes back in, it's going to automatically send that report directly to my seller's webpage for me. So it's kind of a set it and forget it sort of a thing. So up to you how you want to run your business as to, do you want to take a look at things and decide what to send out to them? Or do you just want them to automatically receive those kind of unfiltered results? So currently slated for development, we are working with Master Lock to integrate their lockbox solutions. So right now we do have Central Lock and Supra, and then Master Lock is being incorporated as well. The seller tenant role with no commenting, that is referring to when a showing request comes in. If a showing request has to be denied, currently, I believe there's 5 different questions that they can choose from as to why there's not able to be showings on that property, but they didn't have a way to basically not add any comments to it. So now there is a no commenting option that they can select. It doesn't show up on that report for them. It basically just kind of blanks out that area. So increased total custom survey questions. Again, that's going from 8 up to 10. And then also currently in development, they are working on being able to set up default time and date restrictions. So instead of having to go in on each listing and maybe manually blocking out, let's say from 10 to 2, maybe they've got kids home, something like that, you'll be able to actually go in, set up those time restrictions ahead of time, and then just kind of preload those instead of having to go through those one by one. So for additional resources, visit metromls.com. Under that Aligned Showings page, we do have a series of videos that walk you through how to use the system. We did break it down into chapters for you, so they're relatively short in length. The longest one is probably about 8 minutes or so. That is going to be our inputting listing video. Everything else is about 2 to 3 minutes. You also find on that page at the lower part of it, documentation as to how different features work. If you're working on a team, kind of what that is all involved. If you have an assistant, kind of how they can use the system for their role as that. And then we do have on there that listing input form, which I know you guys have had out in your office for a little while now. Your feedback definitely is important to us. Again, the nice thing is that we are co-owners of this product. So any suggestions that you have can easily be brought to our development team. Our main architect of this software literally is 10 feet outside of my office door. We definitely want to hear your feedback and work on implementing things that are local to this market that maybe the rest of the country doesn't necessarily need. So you can send us metromls.com/suggest. That basically will take you to our "in my opinion" section of our website that'll allow you to kind of type in what the issue is or what you want to see out of the product. We definitely want to hear from you. So if there is something that you want to see an improvement on, or something maybe we haven't even thought about doing yet, definitely reach out and let us know. That's the best way that we can communicate back and forth with you and make sure that we can address those issues, if any, that you're having. So Charlie, that takes us through my portion. Do we have any questions in the room?
Or in the chat, feel free.
Are they working on being able to exclude agents from a broadcast?
That exact question was asked this morning. Jared, I'll just follow up on that because I can't remember your response. Is there an option right now to exclude agents from a broadcast?
So currently there is not, but like Charlie said, that did come up this morning, and I added it to my list for the developer, and he has that information. So they're going to look into the ability to do that.
I'll give Jared credit too. He, this morning's phone call, there was about 330 people on the call. It was very robust with feedback, and 4 or 5 of the items that feedback was given to Jared has already changed between when he gave this at 9 a.m. to where we are right now at noon. So if you do have feedback, feel free to share it my way, because these guys do want to create a sense of urgency and making sure that the platform from a transition standpoint is where it is that we need it to, but we don't know what that is unless you share that feedback. Jared, I do have one other question that has come up from the group, is listings that are in the system currently that do not sell or have an accepted offer, so they're still active with showings after the April 1st deadline of a transition. How does that work in the system? Do they have to manually transition it to Aligned Showings from showing time? Will you guys do it on the back end, or what does that look like?
That I'm going to have to follow up with on, because there is a setting inside of your listing setup area that you can choose between Aligned Showings and the other showing platform. And just because we're not necessarily integrating the other showing platform anymore doesn't prohibit anyone from utilizing that software still if they prefer to keep that route. We're just not going to be part of that transactional period. So let me look into what the thought process is to automatically kick those over, and then I'll get back to you, Charlie, and then you can share it back with everyone else.
That'd be great. Thanks. Anything else? Questions, comments, feedback?
Yeah, I'd love to have an open house label, like, so when if I'm scheduling an appointment on my own listing, logging an open house for Harrison to do it, we should have the ability to label it as an open house. We have inspection, we have showing, we have a couple other things. And then an open house, we should be able to override the max appointment time. So if the max appointment time is a half hour for agents, I should be able to put an open house on my own listing for 2 hours.
Yeah, so I did hear the question, Charlie, so there's no need to repeat it. So when it comes to the open house, we do realize that is a showing type that has not been included as part of that showing setup. So that is something that it's going to be added into it. And then when it comes to the max length of those showings, that is set by the listing agent and can go anywhere from unlimited up to an hour, or I'm sorry, up to 180 minutes. So that's something that you would actually do directly through your listing setup in Align Showings.
Yeah, Jared, I get that. It'd just be nice if that only applied to showings being set up by other agents, not by myself as a listing agent logging an open house. Because, you know, you'd restrict an agent to be a half hour, 45 minutes, but the open house might be longer than that, and you gotta change the setting, you gotta change it back, or you gotta do 2 appointments for a 2-hour open house.
Okay, I will add that to my list and get that over to our developers to figure out.
This is the time, don't be shy.
Just to piggyback that, then, is that restriction still then, like if someone goes into, if I'm the listing agent and a buyer agent is scheduling a home inspection, would that still be then the original restriction that we put in for showings would then apply to inspections and appraisals as well?
So, I mean, think of that window of time as like a general guide. Obviously, if you're having a home inspection, it's going to be a several hour process. So basically, as long as they're checking the fact that it is an inspection or it is an appraisal, I think we all know that they're going to be in the house longer than that designated half an hour or whatever it is. So as long as that showing has been approved and you're aware of the status of it as far as being an inspection or an appraisal, I mean, that's something that we don't follow up on. Oh, they were there for 35 minutes instead of 30.
But it
So-
causes confusion.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. You would assume that everyone would know that, but no, actually, I'd say a lot of, especially first-time home buyers or first-time home sellers don't know that. And so if there's a request and it's approved and the seller gets a notification saying this inspection is scheduled from 11 to 11:30, we then have to manually reach out and correct that and let them know that, well, actually, even though the system said it's still 11:30, it's actually going to be for 2 hours, versus having the ability to, again, if there is some sort of customization for certain things like open houses or inspections, to allow a longer period of time without changing the overall setting. I don't know if it's possible, but if we're just throwing out suggestions, I think that that's one to consider.
Yeah, I'm writing it down here. So I definitely will bring that forward and see what possibilities that exist with, you know, using that drop down to automatically filter different timeframes in associated with those showing types.
Awesome, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
for those that don't know, because like it took me a while to figure out that I could turn off the calendar invites option. And like you had a new listing, you like 4,000 calendar things on your, all over the place, you can turn that off.
Yep.
Cool.
So remember, anything that you do in your global settings, which are going to be in that bottom left-hand corner of your screen, those will apply to all of your other new listings, unless you go in and physically change those in the individual listing setup.
Thank you, Jared. Oh, yes.
Yeah, our team hasn't made the transition yet, so if this has been adapted, then so be it. But when we're using showing time and we put a listing into delayed status, it'll automatically block off all the days until our go live date in showing time. But then I've heard that in Align, our agents have had to go in and manually block off those times, since they've gotten messages from MLS saying that it's not blocked off until that start showing date. Is that something that's in the works?
Yes, that is definitely something that's in the works. I'll check in and see where they're at in that development phase, and then I'll let Charlie know that information as well to share with all of you.
To piggyback on that, it triggered my memory about like restricted time. So if somebody says showings are from 7 AM to 7 PM, we right now have to block off midnight to 7 AM and 7 PM to midnight. Like it'd be nice to do the time that's allowed, like 7 AM to 7 PM. Because right now we have to do 2 steps for every day.
That's a great point.
You know,
Yeah.
just a little tweak, but it would be helpful. Get that man on payroll.
Hired.
Good. Jared, thanks for jumping on again. And
Absolutely. Anytime I can be of help, you guys reach out to me. Easiest way to get a hold of me is email. It's Jared, Jared @metromls.com. So reach out and let us know how we can help you.
sweet. Thanks, Jared.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna jump into training and education, then I'm gonna get into the settlement. Cool? Here's what I do know though, and this is why I'm leading with training and education. Historically, in springs of past, our training calendar had gotten lighter while your activity had amped up. Is to not create distractions. In the current market of the moment, our training and education calendar is going to get busier because we have to be able to do both and. We both have to be able to do our business effectively, and we're gonna have to learn how to evolve. And we're gonna give you tons of opportunities to help you understand how to evolve. Does that make sense? Sweet. So March training calendar coming up. It is getting lighter as we head into Easter, as spring breaks are starting to happen. So just know, second thing that's sitting on my desk right now is the April training calendar. The April training calendar is currently being revised to add things as to what's going on in the market in order to help you guys evolve and think about how you lean on your peers as to what's going on in the market. So that should be coming out here within the next week with some additional opportunities for you guys. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. One thing I do want to call out is I think that we are uniquely positioned to take advantage of how the business is evolving. The reason why I say that is at our core, we are a training and education company first. We have a community and a culture that understands and appreciates the lifelong learning aspect as to how we continue to evolve. If you think back to when this first started, the settlement happened on October 31st. Okay? November, we had already started shifting our training and education to better align with where the market was headed. December, we hosted an event downtown at the War Memorial for those that attended that included a panel all around compensation with both the listing side and the buyer side, because we wanted to start articulating what this means and how we do it. January, we added some things, February, we added some things, and then last week, Wednesday, before this whole thing kind of blew wide open as to where it is that we were headed, we hosted a training event on Zoom around buyer agent compensation and how agents in the market of the moment were preparing for this, okay? Two things to note. The QR code that's on there will take you directly to the recording. The recording is not public on YouTube. You cannot find it unless you scan the QR code, or after the meeting, I will send you a link that you will specifically need the link to hear and understand the dialogue and conversation. Love that you're scanning it and love that you're hearing it. Okay? Two things to know on YouTube. You can listen to this while you're in the car, and you can also do the playback speed at 2x. The beauty of it is not only did Bruce, Catherine, Paul, Maureen share, you had people like Rick Rubin jump on, John Molitor jump on, and a variety of other folks. There were 80+ people on the call. Highly recommend you listening just to the dialogue as to how these guys were already approaching this conversation with both listing side and buyer side. Having said that then, and you can rewatch it on YouTube, okay? Value squared, we've talked about it a lot. We were on a call on Monday with Keller Williams International. The value squared that they did last week is gonna be different than the value squared that's gonna be happening next week, okay? I would stay tuned and want to continue to plug into what Gary, Jason, and Jay are presenting in terms of how we help you navigate these conversations. In April, and I'm not entirely sure yet on which date, we are putting together an opportunity to do Value Squared live, where we will stream it, and then we are going to host panels to unpack it of your peers as to what this looks like for us in Milwaukee. Stay tuned. Also, we knew we had Jeff Clever coming on the 29th. And what we did is we called Jeff on what, Friday or Monday? And we said, Jeff, look, we still need your listing presentation and we want you to give it. And let's scrap the other idea we had and let's go all into having identifying how you're going to navigate having buyer compensation discussions with your clients. What does that look like and how are you navigating it with you and your team? So Jeff, as of yesterday, is putting together a whole training plan for us when he comes to Milwaukee on the 29th. That will be downtown at the War Memorial from 1 to 4 p.m. on the 29th. Cool? Stay tuned. We have a whole host of other things of masterminds because here's ultimately what I truly believe will happen. We don't know where this is going or how this is going to impact the market. My personal opinion for those that that made commentary from Friday at around 10 AM when this was announced through Monday is, here's what I know. The legal documents to this was 137 pages long. I thought it was wildly inappropriate to be giving exact science as to exactly how this was gonna go and navigate. No one actually knows, because why? The market will dictate and the consumers will dictate as to how these dialogues are gonna happen. We're gonna have to learn from each other within our community. And when I say our community, I mean our entire industry, so that we all learn to evolve together in order to better practice the industry of real estate, because this change is impacting everybody. And we're gonna be leaning into training and education, and we're gonna be leaning into masterminds like the one we held last week, Wednesday, and we will continue to host them into April, May, June, and July, so that we are navigating this in real time and not waiting to be told this is how to navigate it. Make sense? So that's kind of the impetus behind why the training and education calendar is so full. On a sidebar tonight, there's a KWYP event tonight here in the training room. Sweet. Anybody want to comment on that?
Great,
Great. 5 p.m. Mastermind date coming up. There's one next week, right, Tina? Tomorrow. I'm losing track of time. Tomorrow from 1 to 3 with Tina, all around wealth building and masterminding. And then lastly, in the month of March, the serving committee is garnering kits to send kids, foster care kids to camp this summer. Look, in Southwest, we are simply looking for bug spray and sun lotion. You can probably all go in your closets and clear out your sunscreen if your closet's like mine, where you have 100 bottles, and go help.
We can't take any used product,
No,
sorry.
new used product,
No
new
used
product.
New, thank you, new product.
I got plenty of new.
Okay.
Alright, good on that? Okay, here we go, and this is where we're going into it. I wanna reground the group on something I talked about last week. In the vision speech, I shared with you a couple themes. Real estate is a contact sport, and there's never been a year to be the economist of choice. We have to get out there and articulate what it is that we're doing, and we can't wait for consumers to visit us as to what's going on in the market. The best defense is an elite offense, okay? Last week, we talked about how 89% of all transactions utilized an agent last year. That was up from the year prior where it was 86%. People are telling you they value your service and they value what it is that you do for them in a complex environment, a complex transaction. Interestingly enough, last year across the US, 59% of the time, buyer's agency was not utilized. I would expect, put it this way, I will make a bold statement. It should be 100% next year with where this is going if you've been paying attention. We are uniquely positioned in the state of Wisconsin because we've been working with a very effective buyer agency for a long time. Most other states, it's a voluntary form. We're gonna have to get back to being very comfortable with what buyer agency is and what our buyer consultations are. And the days of us showing homes and then getting buyer agency signed as we're signing an offer to purchase, quite frankly, are going to go away. You're gonna have to think about how you slow down in order to articulate your value through a buyer consultation if you wanna be able to how to navigate what's coming ahead of us. Make sense? Lastly, buyers and sellers have told us they have high satisfaction of your services. The reason why I share this with you is this should put wind in your sails, because it's not as if people don't believe that you aren't valuable. It's just the way in which that it was structured is changing. And that's okay. Change is scary, and yet we have to embrace it. Make sense? So, and from a selling standpoint, 89% of the time they utilized an agent, only 7% of the time do they for sale by owner. People are telling you, yes, we value your services. So where are we and where are we headed? Okay, couple things. KW yesterday at around, let me back up. I knew no one in the industry knew anything of the settlement until it hit the Wall Street Journal on Friday morning. Okay, it's not as if we were prepared for this moment in any way. No one was, including GMAR, WRA, nobody. I found out about this Friday morning. I was volunteering at St. Augustine Prep on the South Side, listening to senior portfolios, and my phone was blowing up. And I said, uh-oh, something just happened, right? I didn't want to comment on something I didn't know about, especially when it's a 137-page legal document, until I had a bit more time to create clarity as to where we are and where we're headed, which is why I put out the post on Friday to say, look, we're gonna dive into this and we're gonna help you navigate where we're going. And it took me a little bit of time to decompress as to where we are and what we're doing. Make sense? So following that, Monday, KWRI put out an email. It was a rather long email. The way I describe long emails is if you have to scroll twice on your phone, it's a long email, okay? Rarely do I read long emails, just being honest. Except this one I read word for word because it is a industry-changing moment. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk you through those right now, and we will unpack what that means for us as we go through it. Is that cool? Cool. So first, buyer agency representation agreements will be required in the new world. I'm just gonna move some of this stuff, so it's out of my way. Whatever, all right. Agents working with buyers, hold on one sec, I just gotta, sorry, guys. Here we go. All right. Agents working with buyers must sign a written buyer representation agreement with the buyer before the agent can show a home listed in the MLS. Unless inconsistent with federal or state law, the buyer representation must include at least these things. First, agents must disclose the amount or rate of compensation they will receive or how this amount will be determined. This is a big change. We're gonna have to think about what that means and how we articulate what it is that we are working for. Two, the amount of compensation must be set forth in the agreement, such as the percentage or dollar amount, and cannot be open-ended. For example, the agreement cannot say buyer broker compensation shall be whatever the amount the seller is offering the buyer. It has to be concrete in detail. I will tell you, we are already working with our legal representation to get you some formatted boilerplate language that you can include in your buyer agency. And I will tell you, the language that we probably first come out with will be different than the language that we come out with 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now as we learn how the industry changes with this protocol. Make sense? 3, agents cannot receive compensation for brokerage services from any source more than the amount or rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. For example, an agent could not accept an offer of cooperative compensation for more than the amount of the rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. I'll give an example of what this means. You take, you have a buyer consultation. In the buyer consultation, you sign buyer agency, and in the buyer agency, okay, this is what I'm saying, air quotes, you agree with the client that your compensation is going to be 2.4% of the home purchase. Okay, and then you probably have some language in there as to how that's paid. If the buyer, if there's a co-broke compensation, I mean, we're real live playing with you, right? Role playing this with you. You come to a listing that has a 3%. The 3% does not mean you get the 3% if your already articulated compensation with your buyer is 2.4. Does that make sense? The 0.6, it will not change. This is where I'm saying we're gonna have to think through, and we will likely live through a lot of change in what our first iteration of boilerplate language to what it comes out to. And we as an industry are gonna have to work through this together. This isn't an us versus we, a them thing. This is gonna be a we thing.
What's the timeline on this?
So the impact on this, a couple things. One, the courts still have to finalize this settlement. 2, hold on.
Okay, that wasn't exactly my question, but keep going.
But here's the problem. They say this will go into effect by mid-July of 24. The problem is, unless the settlement is finalized, the time horizon on this isn't necessarily known as of today. But we have to start acting today to learn to when we get to this point, we aren't caught off guard by when this point arrives.
I guess my question was where you said it can't be open-ended, whatever being offered by seller. As long as we're still offering co-brokes, can we still use that language?
Say that again?
So if I'm doing a buyer agency with someone.
Yep.
I generally do put whatever the co-broke is being offered by seller as compensation. And as long as there's a co-broke being offered and we still have co-brokes, can I still continue to use that language for now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if you have it open-ended like that, of just co-broke compensation, and they're only offering 1%, you can't negotiate for anything more.
They didn't like the home, we didn't write on it.
No, I'm just.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I see what you're, yeah.
okay.
But that's not acting as fiduciary to the
Correct.
buyer.
We're gonna live through this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going on this because we could spend a whole
Yeah.
couple hours on this.
Right, I was just asking for the timeline.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
going.
Okay, 2. This is gonna be the biggest change, and this is where I heard the most amount of nervous energy to it. Offers of cooperative compensation cannot be made on the MLS. Agents cannot make offers of cooperative compensation on the MLS. MLSs must eliminate all broker compensation fields on the MLS and prohibit the sharing of offers of cooperative compensation in any other MLS field. NAR also cannot create or support any non-MLS mechanism for sellers or listing agents to make offers of cooperative compensation to buyer's agents. Now, just hang tight, because I may answer your question, and now I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Now, here's where you have to pay attention to part 2. Sellers can offer concessions to the buyer in a public comment field in an MLS listing if the concessions are not conditioned on paying the buyer's agent commission. However, as a part of the negotiation of the purchase contract, sellers and buyers can agree to apply the concessions to the buyer's agent's commission. As a practical matter, even though it cannot be called cooperative compensation, the amount of the seller's concession can match the amount the seller would offer as cooperative compensation as a part of the contract negotiations.
It's a workaround.
That's a pretty loophole.
Yes,
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
okay, it's a loophole. Now, yes,
Just to make sure everyone is clear and that I'm clear, these are not like things that are immediately happening. These are the proposed changes, as long as the settlement is settled, to potentially go into effect in July.
correct.
Right. Until that is finalized, it's business as usual. We're just being proactive and preparing for these inevitable changes, correct?
My commentary on that would be, from a mechanism standpoint of how cooperative compensation is offered, correct. It will still be offered via the MLS.
Okay.
Until July and once everything's settled.
Got it.
What I would challenge you with is I would start preparing mentally when you're going into listing presentations today,
Yes.
how you are going to have these dialogues with clients so that you can effectively be prepared for when the change occurs.
Because you may also have clients that know about this, like I've already had people reach out
Yeah,
and say,
absolutely.
hey, so we don't have to pay buyer's agents anymore if we sell our home, you know what I mean? So they already know about it, so if you're going into a listing agreement, or going into a listing, you wanna make sure that you have your ducks in a row.
See point 1 of my initial conversation, the
Yep.
best defense is an elite offense.
Yep.
Be proactive in these conversations.
Yep.
Yes,
So with that, on MLS right now, there is that variable commission yes or no thing. Will that be, I guess that's an MLS question. Is that gonna be changed too? Because that's not,
it will change.
Yeah.
You will not see commission on the MLS. Okay? Now, hang tight, because there's a place where cooperative compensation will be advertised. And this is where you're gonna have to think differently about how you operate and how you communicate. Yes, Zach?
I was just gonna ask, if I take a listing, say June 15th, and we're like, it goes on market for more than 30 days, we're well into that July thing, or do you know if they're gonna be grandfathered in, or is that just, it's still an unknown?
My interpretation is that it will fall off the MLS as soon as this is enacted, but there are other avenues that you will be able to communicate this, so hang tight. Make sense?
I have one more question,
Yeah.
sorry. I know you're wanting to.
No, you're good.
Let's just say, in Eddie's example, you did everything you could to get them to say that you did all the offense to say, hey, this is why you pay a buyer agent, and they're adamant, no, like tomorrow. In that case, do you just write like $1 in that field, or do you write 0? Or, how would you, if this is like a real life thing right now, how would you do that before July, do you know?
Full disclosure, I don't have the answer to that yet. I'm working through that legally. The question was raised to me this morning around minimum standards of commission and what we will do as a brokerage moving forward. State law requires you can't work for free, okay? So a bare minimum by legal standards, you have to at least charge $1.
Yes.
Now, how we interpret that, I would imagine, and this is where we're still seeking legal guidance, right? So I'm just being honest. I'm sure that we will look at minimum standards from a listing standpoint of what we will allow, and then and this is where it's gonna get really wonky, we're gonna have to look through what it is that we have from a minimum standard standpoint on the buyer side too. Part of that is, the feedback I've been given is, most agents want a minimum floor that they can use as leverage in negotiations with clients. And I don't know what that floor looks like, right? So I'm just saying that these are all things that I'm working through right now with our legal guidance, but that's forthcoming. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Isn't there a catch-all that this applies to MLSs owned by realtor associations, like when they spin it off and have, say, them, is there talks about that already, or?
Stay for the unrecorded portion of my comment.
I know that we're not gonna be allowed to have that compensation on the listing, but is there gonna be an agreement where we can have a document so we know going in, or is that a question we're gonna have to ask the listing agent prior to showing the property?
Let's go to the next slide.
Okay,
and-
sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. It's all great questions.
Because I'm like, am I gonna have to put 2.4 on the kitchen photo? 2.4.
Here, hold on, let's do this. Good. Hold on, 2.4 bath. 2.4 car garage. Yep.
People are gonna ask for they're gonna ask for closing cost credit to cover the compensation. The thing that's gonna come up in the future is if they really need something fixed, you're gonna cap out at 3%. So you're only leaving yourself 6%. I say 3% because most loans won't let you do more than 3% closing cost credit. So you're gonna be handcuffing yourself if that inspection goes bad and you want a closing cost credit for a new roof or new something like that. Now where's that 2.4 coming from?
You're right. I think the lending world's also gonna evolve as this happens too, because
I
I've had
mean-
discussions with.
Also, I mean, it's gonna be depending, but if you're, as it stands right now, if you're doing it, most loans are gonna cap you at 3%, so something's gotta change.
Okay, real quick, I'll give something else of a very elementary parallel. How many people here have played whack-a-mole? Okay, what's going on right now in the industry is they're trying to solve something that another problem is going to be created by. And we're gonna play whack-a-mole, the industry in general is gonna be playing a lot of whack-a-mole. For example, I'll just bring it up before anybody else does. This is going to negatively impact first-time home buyers, and this is going to negatively impact buyers of minority status.
Yes.
That was an unintended consequence of what is going on, and the industry as a whole and government regulation is gonna have to solve that. So let's keep going on the commission piece. 3, offers of cooperative compensation may be made off the MLS. Nothing in NAR's settlement prohibits sellers or listing agents from making offers of cooperative compensation to buyers agents off the MLS via email, newsletter, calls, texts, etc. Be aware that all communication must always be TCPA compliant. Before listing agents can offer compensation to buyers agents, they must disclose and obtain seller approval for any offer in conspicuous language that stands out and is clearly visible. 2, an MLS cannot require agents to make or accept offers of cooperative compensation as a condition of joining or participating in the MLS. MLSs also cannot require that offers of cooperative compensation, if made, be blanket, unconditional, or unilateral. Okay? What this is saying is cooperative compensation does not go away. It's just the mechanism for how it is being communicated right now is going to change. Okay? That leads me to the next point. 4, brokers can publish offers of cooperative compensation for their own listings on their own websites. Although MLSs are prohibited from publishing cooperative compensation offers, the settlement allows brokers and their agents to publish seller-approved cooperative compensation offers for their own listings, but not other brokers' listings on their own websites. I will pause here. 2 things. We have 2 huge competitive advantages in our marketplace. 1, our listing scale in southeastern Wisconsin is bigger than any other company right now, as of last year. Our economies of scale in terms of the access to information will benefit you in terms of the environment you work in. 2, one of the things that we have tried to do, and we did not foresee this, but now is an unintended benefit to what we've been trying to do, is you guys get an maybe annoyingly amount of emails from Willis on a Friday and a Monday asking you for your listings, correct? And I would say our implementation of that system has not been great in terms of the capacity that it could be utilized. And then on Tuesday, Willis, we go through and make sure that it's all clean so that no one gets in trouble, and then we send it back out to you. there will be a day in the future that we are now communicating offers of cooperative compensation through that platform. And we need to start thinking about how we're flexing our muscle in order to utilize that system to get you guys more access to information. 3, the other unintended major benefit to this is, while many of us have lived through the evolution of command, the ability for us to own our proprietary technology in order to create and evolve the technology for how we communicate cooperative compensation will be a competitive advantage in the future. And I will tell you, as of yesterday at 11 o'clock on the phone call I was on, they're already in development of trying to figure out how they do this. How that lives on our website, how that lives in our apps, how that lives in every piece of tech that we feed, that will be a huge competitive advantage, okay? 5, agents must make commission disclosures. Agents must disclose in listing of agreements, buyer representation agreements, and pre-closing disclosures that broker commissions are not set forth by law and fully negotiable. NAR must require realtor boards and MLSs to include these disclosures in any agreements they publish. Fine, no problem, we can do that.
Already done.
Already done. Okay. I'll pause there just for questions. Yes.
So with it stating that it has to be off the MLS, what about MLS like owned, like aligned showings? Can you put it once an approved showing comes up that it's?
I don't think that you cannot count on MLS or any of MLS's proprietary technology to be communicating compensation moving forward.
So currently I see on Shore West listings that when you have a showing scheduled with them and it's through showing time, there's an automated feature that on that listing, the documents are sent to you prior to your showing appointment. So anybody who chooses to still use showing time rather than aligned showings could have that feature available to them to communicate compensation.
Or have a line showing to add that.
So aligned showings can't add it because they're owned by our MLS.
Well, I'll find out. I don't know.
The docs are sent from a line sometimes too, right, when you schedule a showing.
I'll find out.
Extra docs sent to you.
The other thing you have to think about macro of how you're going to evolve your business is how this plays a part in how you communicate through the platforms that you operate in, right? And this is part of the evolution of the industry, is we're gonna have to work with our peers to figure out where it is that all this information lies and how we gather and glean the information in order to make good decisions. Yes, Scott?
I would also just encourage, instead of trying to like think of all these loopholes, to just like figure out how to do it in this new, because let's say we get a different MLS that isn't owned by realtors, who's to say the next month the rule comes out that bans that, you know, like as we're creative, we try to be creative, but just in general, if this is what it's saying, like think of ways to actually run your business this way versus ways around it.
Yep.
Any day you wake up, something like this could happen and you gotta change your business again, so.
Yeah, it's got music playing for him and everything.
I'm angelic.
He's really dropping it.
So, yeah.
It's part of his theme music.
Music queued up, lights there.
Okay, here's a really, yes.
Maybe you're gonna touch on this, or maybe I'm late to the party here, but I mean, my biggest concern is what communities we're training. Is there gonna be any, not training, but just any meetings kind of surrounding ways to speak to that? Because it's completely incorrect, right? What they're putting out there is probably scaring a lot of people with what it's supposed to be doing.
Yep.
A lot of what you're saying here is what many people in Wisconsin and realtors in Wisconsin are already doing. Or maybe you have to tweak our business a little bit, but they're doing a lot of this, so.
Yep.
If there's like ways to kind of show your clients, you know, we're kind of already on this page and already doing these things, it's just gonna change a little bit how we communicate information.
Incredibly valid point. There's two things that I would say to that. One, I've already noticed a little bit, like GMAR as an association. I saw Mike Ruzicka has been out in the media channels to be the voice of reason for our industry. I think that's important for our association to continue to do. That's where I do get a little bit frustrated around some of the agent commentary that I've seen across a variety of platforms. Like, what I didn't appreciate is like, we're all in this together. To then create a forecast as to what this will look like and create more doom and gloom in a society that doesn't need more doom and gloom, I don't think helps our industry. So I also think that in terms of our leadership position and looking across GMAR, there's 5,000 associates that meet with home buyers and sellers every single day. And I go back to point number one, the best defense is an elite offense. Like, we have to be very confident in how we approach this, and we can't flinch when this topic comes up. And that we're gonna need all of us in the industry to band together in order to effectively make this change. Because the doom and gloom of the media is totally, and we're just gonna have to learn how to navigate it. Here's the other thing I noticed, from a variety of, in my role doing this for 8 years, lots of things have popped up on my plate. The news cycle now is so fast that whether it's dealing with social unrest or a variety of other issues, not saying that those shouldn't go on longer, but having dealt with negative PR or the negative PR of things, really, it is small, the window is small. So we just have to navigate through what I kind of led with, like the time continuum. Don't take the intensity of the moment to think that the industry is changing. I mean, the industry is changing, but that the industry is going away. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Last thing on this, and I'm gonna provide you with 3 pages of my comment, really quick bullets of my commentary about where we are. Scope of release of liability. Okay, this is what I would say the fine print of 137 pages of documents is. Very fascinating to pay attention to. The release in NAR's settlement covers NAR state and local realtor associations, MLS owned by realtor associations, most agents who are members of NAR, and certain brokerages that had residential transaction volume of 2 billion or less in 2022. That's an important point. To be covered under NAR's release, an agent must be a member of NAR. One official notice of the settlement is to home sellers. This notice is expected to be sent in July of 2024. So last week we talked about a postcard that had already gone out. You can expect consumers will be notified of this in July of this year. Okay, again, the best defense is an elite offense. We have to get ahead of this dialogue with consumers. NAR's release does not cover any agents associated with Home Services of America, which is all Berkshire-related companies. NAR's release does not cover agents who are employees of other corporate defendants named in the brokerage commission lawsuits, okay? And then it goes on and on and on. Couple things to pay attention to. One, anybody who sold less than 2 billion in residential volume in 2022 is covered. Anybody who is sold above 2 billion in residential volume is not covered unless they are a part of an organization that is separately settled. So for example, in Milwaukee, from a KW perspective, we are a part of the KW global settlement that came in January. We're good. Some of our peers across the industry still have liability outstanding. Namely, EXP, Compass, Shore West, First Weber, which is a part of Home Services of America, which I would imagine that they will settle soon and quickly. But if you take brokerages like down in Chicago, At Properties is a big brokerage, they're well over 2 billion. There is a settlement fee structure that these brokerages will have to pay in order to be a part of, to get a part of this release and settlement. How that plays out will be very, very fascinating and interesting to watch. The reason why I share that with you is twofold, because I heard this over the weekend from a variety of agents. One, you can sleep easy at night knowing that you have no liability in this. Your liability has been taken off the table because of your association to an incredibly powerful community of Keller Williams, okay? Because they decided to settle in January, you do not need to worry. You don't need to worry about E&O. I had people asking me for what their E&O is. Don't need to worry about it, okay? Two, I also believe that we are uniquely positioned as a company that is training and educationally based at its core to help you take advantage of this. I feel for some of our peers that don't have a training and education-based culture, and they have to herd cats of independent contractors to how to help them evolve, okay? I also believe that as good stewards of our industry, you will not hear me negatively talk about our peers because we are going to uplift our peers and that we're gonna all, how we get through this is how we all get through this together. Does that make sense? And it is our duty and responsibility to share our knowledge of training and education with our peers so that we can help them through it if they don't feel like they're getting the guidance they need or want. But there's still more to come on this, especially for brokerages that were above 2 billion in transactional volume. So there's still some more shoes that will drop on this whole thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me wrap it up with this. Couple commentaries. One, it's not a revolution. It's an evolution. Change is happening, agents are going to be around, business is going to happen. Let's just accept that reality. 2, there will be divisible change within our industry, and this will divide the amateurs and the pros. 3, those that are prepared, there will be those that are prepared for the change and those that aren't. Next, we have to be proactive in addressing the situation with both buyers and sellers. Don't hide behind it. Don't act as if it's status quo. Bring the situation up in your conversations with your clients. It will serve you. Okay? The best defense is an elite offense. Come at the conversation from a sense of calm and confidence. Right? Be the voice of reason. Help educate your clients. Be leery, and this is just my own personal opinion, be leery of social media prognosticators. The market will determine how we operate. We don't know the full impact until it's tested by the market, and the consumers will tell us how we will operate moving forward. It's way too early for us to be doom and gloom, or this is how it's gonna go, or everybody's gonna steal my clients in an open house. It's just learn how to navigate it. Cool? Next, mindset has to be, I'm going to win and I will evolve. It's time to double down and accept the mindset, because change is not what eliminates people. The inability to change with that change is what eliminates people. And I think that's incredibly important. Okay? Lastly, I'll share with you one little anecdotal story, and this is really more of a mindset piece. I got a Christmas card from a dear friend of mine, really, really successful individual, incredible servant leader, not in our industry, totally outside our industry, but is a Milwaukee-based individual. Okay? And on the back of their Christmas card, it had a tale, and it talked about the tale of 2 wolves. And I have this Christmas card posted on my desk so that I look at it every day. And I'd share, and I would leave with you with this. A Cherokee elder was teaching his young grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It's a terrible fight, and it is between 2 wolves. One is evil, and he is angry, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The boy thought for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The grandfather replied, the one you feed. So as we work through change and we work through evolution, how you come out of this change and evolution is the wolf you end up feeding. And it's okay, change is gonna happen. We just have to accept it. And how we help you evolve it, and I believe we are uniquely positioned to help you do that, will help you create a sense of calm and confidence for you and your clients, and you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you in order for it to get your unfair share of market share. Cool? Lastly, I just wanna give a quick call out. We've already started making changes. If you go to the kwrealtymke.com and the Agent Hub, we have already started creating resources for you as of yesterday about the impact of the market at the moment. And on our YouTube channel, we've already started creating playlists of conversations that have already been had that you can go to put into your RAS, because I think what is in your RAS is incredibly important. So you're gonna see us gather a variety of different dialogues, a variety of different examples of buyers' presentations, a variety of different, everything we do will be recorded, and we will place them in this playlist so that you guys have access to every resource you could possibly think in order to navigate the market at the moment. Sound good? Sweet. So with that, I apologize for a little bit of an extra length. I think it's a pivotal moment in time. I'm gonna stop the recording, and feel free to hang out and have a dialogue with me if you so choose, and if not, that's totally cool. You guys are free to go. But I appreciate you guys showing up, and we're gonna navigate it together. Cool?
Thank you.
Awesome.